Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and as we begin our meeting today, and on behalf of Ottawa City Council, I wish to acknowledge that Ottawa is built on unceded Anishinaabe-Algonquin territory. Les peuples de la nation Anishinaabe-Algonquin vivent sur ce territoire depuis des millénaires.
This nation has been on this territory for millennia, and their presence are honor the people and land of the Anishinaabe-Algonquin Nation. The City of Ottawa honors all First Nation community and their valuable present and past contribution to this land.
For those who are able, please rise for a moment of personal reflection. Thank you. Merci. Please remain standing if you're able, and we'll ask Councillor Hubley now to introduce the performers of our national anthem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and colleagues. I'm very pleased to introduce the St. Anne's Student Choir, a talented group of mostly grade 3 singers who share their love of music through performances at school and in our community. St. Anne's celebrated 25 years earlier this year, and I'm honored that they are with us today. I would be remiss, Mr. Mayor, and in a lot of trouble if I didn't also introduce that my granddaughter, Makara, that probably every one of you have heard me speak about, is in the back row of that group. Makara, can you wave, please? Now I'm in trouble with her for embarrassing her, but the rest of the family will be happy I introduced her. So please help me in giving the choir a warm welcome.
Thank you very much to St. Anne's Student Choir. I'll now ask for the roll call, please.
Councillor Luloff.
Good morning.
Councillor Judas. Councillor Hill.
Present.
Councillor Curry. Councillor Kelly.
Present.
Councillor Gower.
Here.
Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Johnson. Councillor Devine.
Here.
Councillor Bradley.
Here.
Councillor Tierney.
Present.
Conseillère Plante.
Hello.
Councillor King.
Here.
Councillor Troster.
Here.
Councillor Leeper.
Bonjour.
Councillor Brockington.
Here.
Councillor Menard.
Here.
Councillor Carr.
Here.
Councillor Kitts.
Here.
Councillor Skolsky.
Here.
Councillor Brown.
Here.
Conseil des Roches.
Here.
Councillor Hubley. Councillor Lowe.
Present.
Mayor Sutcliffe.
Here.
Monsieur le maire, nous avons quorum.
Merci. Confirmation of minutes from the special city council meeting of November 7th and the council meeting of November 12th. Are those carried? Any declarations of interest? I'll note the communications on the agenda. We did receive regrets from Councillor Curry and Councillor Johnson. Motion to introduce reports. Councillor Troster.
That the Integrity Commissioner's report entitled 2025 Annual Report of the Integrity Commissioner, Finance and Corporate Services Committee Report 31, Planning and Housing Committee Report 57, and the report from the City Clerk entitled Summary of Oral and Written Public Statements, Submissions for items subject to the Planning Act explanation requirements at the City Council meeting of November 12, 2025 be received and considered, and that's seconded by Councillor Devine.
Thank you. Is that carried? Item 10.1 is the 2025 Annual Report of the Integrity Commissioner. Is that received? We will hold item 11.1 for our in-camera session. Item 12.1 is the 2025 Affordable Housing Capital Strategy and Update. Is that carried? Item 13 is the bulk consent agenda. Is that carried? And with the support of councillors, I'm going to move item 16.1 ahead on the agenda and deal with it now before we go in camera. As you know, colleagues, it is the motion on the commemorative naming for Robin Guest. And colleagues, I wanted to thank you again for allowing me to bring this motion forward and for your support, for the opportunity to honor our friend and colleague Robin Guest. I want to acknowledge Robin's brother Brian, who's here with us today, no stranger to City Hall, and her family, Chris, Devon, and Quinlan, who are watching online. And I think you'll all agree it's still very difficult to believe that Robin is no longer with us here in the council chamber and at City Hall. She meant a great deal to all of us in the mayor's office and throughout City Hall. And, you know, we often talk about people who care about Ottawa, people who are passionate about local government, people who want to make the city better for everyone. And I can't think of anybody for whom that is more true than Robin Guest. She was devoted to improving her community and the lives of her fellow residents. She wanted to see our city grow and move forward. She wanted to make sure we were also not leaving anyone behind. She fought for the well-being of our most vulnerable residents. She served our community incredibly well and contributed enormously to making Ottawa a better place. On a personal note, as I've said before, Robin was a terrific partner and colleague and an absolutely indispensable resource to me during my first 2 years as mayor. I benefited greatly from Robin's wisdom, expertise, knowledge, talent, and friendship. Robin was a devoted mother, grandmother, wife, daughter, sister, colleague, and friend, and we will never forget her. So let Robin Guest Park be a permanent reminder of Robin's impact on our city and the love and admiration that we all have for her. So on the motion for the commemorative naming, is that carried?
Carried.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we are going to move in camera now to consider an item, and I will ask Councillor Troster to introduce that motion, seconded by Councillor Devine.
Thank you, Mayor. Be it resolved that City Council resolve in camera pursuant to Procedure Bylaw 2025-100 subsection 13(1)(c), a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land for the purpose of the city, subsection 13(1)(f), the receiving of advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, subsection 13(1)(i), a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to a municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organizations, and subsection 13(1)(k), a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board with respect to the acquisition opportunity, Capital Region Resource Recovery Center.
Thank you, Councillor Troster. Is that carried? All right, we will begin the closed session as soon as possible. Thank you. Okay, we're going to resume. For the benefit of the public joining us, Ottawa City Council just met in camera pursuant to Procedure Bylaw 2025-100 as follows, subsection 13(1)(c), a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land for the purposes of the city. Subsection 13(1)(f), the receiving of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Subsection 13(1)(i), a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, persons, or organization. Subsection 13(1)(k), a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board with respect to the acquisition opportunity, Capital Region Resource Recovery Center. Council has considered the matter in closed session. Other than on procedural matters and/or directions and instructions to staff, no votes were taken in closed session. I'll acknowledge there is much public interest in this matter, as reflected in the public delegations we heard from last week at Finance and Corporate Services Committee. Understandably, I know members of the public are anxious to hear more information. The City of Ottawa will continue its participation in the competitive bidding process related to the acquisition of this landfill. However, given the requirements for confidentiality, details will be reported out once the bidding process is over and the non-disclosure agreement has been lifted. Again, I want to acknowledge that this has been a difficult process for many residents and for members of council due to the confidentiality requirements of the non-disclosure agreement we entered into in order to explore this opportunity to purchase a private landfill, the only one approved in Ontario in the last 20 years. Like all of you, I look forward to sharing the details of this process with residents, and we will be able to do so when the process comes to an end. This is an issue of timing, not transparency. As I mentioned in committee last week, this entire process could have been conducted behind closed doors, but we didn't feel that was appropriate. We held a public meeting of the Finance Committee because we wanted to share as much information as possible with residents and provide an opportunity for public engagement and input. We went above and beyond what was required so that residents had a chance to share their views, but also to hear our views on this important decision. I want to thank residents again for their input. So we will now proceed to vote on Committee Recommendation 2, which encompasses the motions approved at last week's Finance and Corporate Services Committee meeting. So on item 2, is that carried? Okay. We will move to item 16.2 on the agenda, which is the motion regarding protection of tenants' rights. And there is a new wording of that motion that has been introduced. Councillor Plante.
Yep, I'll wait for it to be put on screen. Thank you so much.
There you go.
Hold on, I need to make this bigger. I'll go right to the therefore be it resolved, Marcella, if that's okay, just to kind of, for the sake of time. Okay, therefore be it resolved that the Mayor write to the Premier, the Attorney General, and the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs of Ontario to share Council's commitment to protecting the rights of tenants to a safe and affordable home, and be it further resolved that the Mayor requests that the Government of Ontario continue to work with the City to fund and deliver more affordable housing units in Ottawa. Be it further resolved that staff include in their ongoing reporting of Housing Acceleration Plan the progress and assessment of current market conditions and metrics to look at the health and affordability of rental market supply in Ottawa. Can you move it up? Or is that the end?
That's the end.
That's the end. All right. C'est tout. Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Merci à vous. Is that carried? Commemorative naming for Bob Easy. Councillor Brown.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to flag for council that the incorrect address was provided. Last week it was 2778 Munster Road. The correct address is 2890 Munster Road. No other changes were made. And Mr. Easy is certainly a deserving individual for this commemorative naming, and look forward to council's support. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Is that carried? Notices of motion. Councillor Desroches.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brown. Whereas the construction contract for Riverside South Park 11 has been awarded and construction of this much-needed community park commenced in September 25. Whereas the contractor has indicated that a confirmed park name is required by January 2026 in order to place the order for the park identification sign with the supplier. Whereas it is important for parks to have names with strong community connection and identities, rather than names that simply reflect the street on which they are located. Whereas Marcel and Linda Monsian, who are proud Franco-Ontarians, own and operate the first retail business in Riverside South for more than a decade, becoming true pioneers of the modern Riverside South community and establishing a strong foundation for local economic and social life. Whereas the Monsian family has demonstrated exceptional community leadership through their longstanding support of youth sports teams, school fundraising initiatives, and community association events such as the Canada Day celebration, spring and fall community cleanings, Santa breakfasts, and wagon rides, as well as annual participation in the OC Transpo Food Bank Drive. And whereas Monsian's has provided significant employment opportunities in Riverside South, including hundreds of jobs for local youth, contributing meaningfully to early work experience, skills development, and long-term community engagement, whereas Marcel Monsian was awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal in 2012 in recognition for his outstanding community service. Whereas Marcel and Linda Monsian retired in 2021, and the Monsian family remains widely recognized for their generosity, early investment in Riverside South, and the role their store played in a vital community gathering place. And whereas the contractor timelines for park identification sign do not align with the full commemorative naming program process, creating an operational need for timely direction from Council. Therefore, be it resolved that Riverside South Park 11 be formally named Monsian's Park, and be it further resolved that the commemorative plaque and mounting be funded through the Ward Councillor's office budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Desroches. Are there any other notices of motion? Motion to introduce bylaws. Councillor Troster.
That the bylaws listed on the agenda under motion to introduce bylaws, 3 readings be read and pass.
Is that carried? Confirmation bylaw. Councillor Troster.
That the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting in November 26, 2025.
Is that carried? Are there any inquiries? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Troster.
That the proceedings of the City Council meeting of 26 November 2025 be adjourned.
Is that carried? Thank you, everyone.
Good afternoon. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Thank you for joining us for today's media availability. Merci de vous joindre à nous pour le point de presse d'aujourd'hui. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that staff will be limited in what they can speak to on the acquisition of the Capital Region Resource Recovery Center, as the city is bound by a non-disclosure agreement as part of the competitive bidding process. Avant de commencer, je tiens à rappeler à tous que le personnel sera limité dans ce qu'il pourra dire, car la ville est liée par un accord de confidentialité dans le cadre du processus d'appel d'offres. I will now invite each agency in alphabetical order to ask their questions. You may ask one question with a follow-up. Par ordre alphabétique, j'invite maintenant chaque organisme à poser leurs questions. We'll start with Arthur White-Crummey at CBC Ottawa.
Thank you, Mayor. This is too tall for me, but I think I can make it work. I have to say we're all a little bit surprised because I think we were expecting a vote today, and there was simply announcement from you that the process will continue. So what does that mean, and how are staff able to continue with this bidding process with an eye to acquiring this property without council authorization in a vote?
Well, again, we're limited in terms of what we can say by the non-disclosure agreement, but in an in-camera session, council is able to give direction to staff. Again, what we're able to say at the conclusion of today's meeting is that the process continues and the city continues to participate in the process, and we'll be able to share any and all details about the outcome of the process when the process is over.
But what does that mean that the process can continue? Can staff now go ahead and buy this property without any further public discussion, without any further council votes? Is that the default? Is that what will happen going forward, barring some kind of surprise or reversal?
Can't answer that. All I can say is the process is continuing, and we're a part of the process. We'll be a part of the process going forward. And once the process is over, we'll be able to share everything.
Thank you. We'll go to Kate Porter at CBC Radio.
Yeah, this is.
It's even
Okay.
even worse for you.
It's okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got you, Kate.
Here we go.
Oh, look, someone who understands
Yeah.
TV equipment.
Are you in a band,
Okay.
Fred?
Yes. Okay. If Taggart had a meeting lined up with your office in April of last year, and yet a city committee decided to postpone the business case of the process they were already doing in June, do you see some sort of conflict there between a private developer coming in for a land purchase, knowing and then continuing on with a public process and a decision in June?
Which decision are you referring to?
The shortlisting 3 options, studying the incinerator, the status quo, and building a new landfill with a decision with a business case for early 2027. Like, it punted the decision for a year and a bit, and yet at the same time, now we know that the city was talking with Taggart about selling their dump when that process was taking place. So do you see some sort of conflict there?
No. Look, I don't know the details of all the details of different meetings that took place with staff at different times, but I'll say a couple things about that. First of all, my office meets with all kinds of people in the community all the time. They share information with us about what their plans are, and we refer those, usually refer those discussions to staff, and then staff, carry the ball from there. My recollection of the decision in June related to our long-term plans for solid waste, if that's what you're referring to, that any potential acquisitions were not a consideration at that time when the decision was made to have the report come back in 2027. So I honestly don't think that was a factor in the decision at the time, and I think we've heard throughout this process that these two things are not mutually exclusive, that regardless of what decisions we make about how we will dispose of waste long-term in the city of Ottawa, decisions that we'll be making when a report comes back in 2027, we still may need to purchase or use landfill in the future, either have our own landfill site or purchase the services of another landfill operator. So those things are not mutually exclusive, and I don't think one process influenced the other.
I have a second question for the mayor, but I'm wondering if Mr. Gontier had any thoughts about the timing of the two files.
So, Kate, one of the pieces that I would put in context is what we were directed back in 2024 was to go and look at basically what are the proven technologies that are available in the market, and then report back to council. So at that point, it was a feasibility study. So what we reported back earlier this year was the outcome of that feasibility study. And from that, to your point, we identified basically the private landfill, the waste to energy, and also a new landfill. This wasn't part of the mix yet at that point. But what we indicated also at that point was this was a feasibility study. Before council can make a decision, or before we can even recommend to council a decision, there's a lot more analysis that needs to be undertaken. So the work has not stalled because of that. That was basically a decision point in the process. We're still working on that process, and we're going to be reporting back in 2027. So this has not impacted that process in any way because we're still moving forward with it. It's not that we were punting a decision. It just that's the information that we had was more from a feasibility perspective. But we can make that level of decision strictly based on the feasibility. There's more work and analysis that needs to be done, and that's what's going to be coming back to council in 2027.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add something else too?
Sure.
I would just say too that I'm not even sure the scenario you describe could be perceived as a conflict of interest, because we're always, anytime we get more and more information about something, we are going to take that information into account, right? So if we were thinking about building a new community center on a particular piece of land, and then someone approached us and said there might be another option available, we might, we did take a look at that other option, that's not a conflict of interest, that's just considering new information. So I'm not sure that the information did have an impact on the process, but even if it did, it would just be new information coming to light. It wouldn't be a conflict of interest.
I didn't mean conflict of interest so much as a conflict of timing, because the two were taking, it turns out that we knew about this at the same time as that was taking place, you see what I mean? But my second question was actually, if you could explain why Jim Watson will be honored with the Order of Ottawa tomorrow when it's been just 3 years since a judge found egregious violation of the public interest in the LRT inquiry.
So the Order of Ottawa is given to significant figures in our community. There's criteria, there's a judging panel, and Jim Watson is the longest serving mayor in the history of our city. And so the judging panel deemed that he should be recognized in this way alongside many other wonderful leaders in our community who have served in a number of different fields.
But you're on that panel, so why do you think he deserves it?
As I said, he's the longest serving mayor in the history of Ottawa. I've known Jim Watson a long time. We don't agree on everything. I don't necessarily endorse everything he did as mayor, but he's the longest serving mayor in our city's history. He's contributed to the city in many different ways, as not just mayor, but as a member of provincial parliament and a cabinet minister, as a volunteer. He clearly loves the city, cares about it. He's had a distinguished career. I don't think anybody would be surprised that the longest serving mayor in our city's history would be the recipient of the Order of Ottawa.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to Leah LaRocque at CTV Ottawa.
When the bidding wraps up, when will the city find out if they won, if they didn't win? Is there a timeline for this process?
Alain can add to this, but that's at the discretion of the seller. It's not our process, it's their process. So they'll decide when they make a decision about the future of that property, they'll let us know, and then we'll hear about it.
Alain, do you have anything to add, or?
No, that's correct. And I think to the mayor's point before, at the conclusion of the process, we will be reporting out on everything that took place related to this. So I think to the mayor's point, this is more of a question of timing right now and following the due process that's been established.
I guess then my follow-up question is a bit, what message do you have for the people of Ottawa, given that this is such a potentially big purchase of a landfill? The staff report said it could be $760 million. So this is a lot of potential use of taxpayers' money. A lot of stuff was done in camera. What message do you have for them where they may be looking at this and saying, that this process doesn't seem right?
Look, I'll say a couple things. Number one, anytime we're involved in purchasing a property from the private sector or from any other entity, it has to be a confidential process. We can't negotiate in public, and that wouldn't be in the city's best interest to enter into some sort of public negotiation. That wasn't even an option this time because the seller defined the terms. So if we're going to have a seat at the table in this bidding process, we have to commit to the terms that the seller has prescribed. It's a confidential process, and that's not unusual. And we've been through it many, many times before when we've acquired different pieces of land as the City of Ottawa. So that's normal. And again, this is not an issue of transparency, it's an issue of timing. At some point in the future, we will share all the details with the people of Ottawa once the process is complete. The other point that I'll make is that, number one, we are going to be spending money on waste solutions for the next 100 years in Ottawa, one way or another. The question is, what are we going to be spending that money on? So if we choose to acquire a property and use it as a landfill in the future, if we choose to spend money on waste to energy or incineration, if we choose another option, if we choose to use a private landfill and send our garbage to that private landfill, we will be spending money on waste management in the future. And any potential acquisition that might happen in the future, whether this process or another one, fits within that envelope of money that we are going to be spending on waste management in the future anyway. The other thing that I would say to residents is, as we've made clear throughout this process, that site is going to be a landfill. The question is not whether it's going to be a landfill or not. The question is who's going to own the landfill, who will have control over it, and who's going to look out for the public interest. So there is not an option where we stay out of this process and nothing happens on this site. The site is going to be sold to somebody and it will be a landfill. The only question is who's going to own it.
Thank you. On va à Sébastien Pierroz, le droit.
Ouais, c'est bon. Parfait. Bonjour, Monsieur le Maire.
Bonjour.
Alors,
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. So there's no vote today. We got that. It's a confidential process. We got that too. But do you think that the public will understand that project? Do you think you'll be understood? Well, I know it's difficult, but this is always the case when there is a negotiation process underway. We need to determine if we're purchasing a property. We may be the owner, but so it's always the case. As soon as possible, all details will be shared with the public. It's not the public will know the details eventually, but during the negotiation process, it remains confidential. So in the future, all the details will be shared with the public. But some councillors publicly express their oppositions to this, Councillor Skotsky and Matt Luloff. Did you speak to them? And what do you have to say to their arguments? I spoke to all councillors about this process. And as I said in English, and as I say often, the question is not to determine if this will be a public dump, but it's who will own that property. So if it's somebody else, there will be an impact on the residents of Carlsbad Spring and Ottawa. And if the city of Ottawa owns the property, we might manage the situation in the interest of the public. The same answered for Councillor Stosky. Well, yes, I understand her concerns. The councillor has done a very good job as a councillor for Osgood. That's her role. So I have no problem with the fact that she's concerned about that. But the city must consider all options for the management of garbage in the future. Frédéric Pepin, CBC, Radio-Canada.
All right. Monsieur le Maire.
I would have said the same thing either way.
Oh, okay, Councillor Salsky. Yeah, she already spoke with us.
Oui,
And, yeah.
je sais, oui.
Monsieur le Maire.
Mr.
Okay,
Mayor,
je vais lire un bout qui est dans le rapport qui
there's a portion of the
sur la
report that
presse.
you
Parce que c'est
shared
pas clair
earlier,
pour nous. Dans
because
quel
it's not
étape on
quite
est
clear.
présentement. Je sais que vous pouvez pas nous donner tous les détails.
I know that you cannot
Nous,
give
ce qu'on veut
us more
comprendre, c'est
details,
qu'est-ce
but
qu'on
if
dit
I
à la
understand
population
well,
d'Ottawa dans ce
what
contexte.
will we tell the
Premièrement,
resident of Ottawa?
du contexte.
What
Ce qui est
step
écrit
are
dans le
you
rapport,
in
c'est que la
at?
ville a
In the
déposé son
report,
offre définitive
it says that
à
the
la
city
condition de
has
pouvoir réunir
table
un mandat
is
public dont on a
final
déjà
offers
discuté et que le conseil municipal décide
and that
s'il
the
est allé
city
ou non
council
procéder à la transaction.
will decide if
Donc,
they will move
la
forward with
ville
the
a déjà
transaction.
déposé son final offer,
So
final
did you
bid là-dedans.
already table
Et
your final
exactement.
bid? Where are we
C'est
at?
pas possible de vous dire parce qu'il y a un processus. Nous
I cannot
avons
tell you. There's a
signé un
process.
contrat
We've
pour
signed a non-disclosure agreement
confidentialité
with the
et il y a un
seller.
processus avec peut-être les autres, avec des autres
There will be a process also
pour cette site.
with the other
C'est pas
bidders.
possible de dire
So for right now,
rien d'autre.
I can't tell you, I cannot give you more details. There's a process in place. We are part of the bidding process. The bidding process is ongoing, and we will provide you with more information as soon as we're allowed to do so. So when the process will be finished, we'll be able to inform the population.
Mais c'est ça.
Follow-up
Donc,
question?
parce que ce qui est écrit, c'est que vous
When we
pouvez
read
dire,
the
mais
report,
dans le rapport, c'est écrit que
it
la
says
ville a déposé son offre
that
définitive,
the
definitive
city has
offer. That's
tabled its
written in the report.
final offer. This is in a written
Donc,
document,
vous pouvez pas
your
nous
final
confirmer, mais
bid.
ça a été fait. Puis
You
donc,
cannot
maintenant,
confirm
c'est
it, but it was
est-ce
done.
que
It's
le
in the
conseil
report.
municipal
Now,
va voter sur l'offre qui est
will
offerte
you vote
à
on the
cette
offer
propriété
at one
ou
point?
est-ce que l'offre est faite avant même d'avoir un vote au conseil
Or
municipal?
is the offer done before any type of vote within the council? Answer?
Surtout, c'est une décision du conseil municipal.
It's a decision from the city council.
Seront partagés
Details will be shared at the end of the process.
partager les détails à ce
For right
moment.
now, I cannot provide you with more information.
Si il y a une offre, s'il y a
If
une
there
transaction,
is, let's say, a
c'est une décision
transaction,
du conseil municipal.
the council will make the
J'ai une
decision.
question à M. Gontier.
I have a question for Monsieur Gontier.
Monsieur Gontier, on a entendu Monsieur le maire nous dire
We've
que
heard
les trois
from the
offres qui
mayor
sont envisagées pour le plan à long terme de la gestion des déchets,
that
c'est
the
qu'on peut
three
pas séparer
options
cette
from the
proposition
long-term
d'achat de ce terrain. Si la
plan
ville achète
is
ce terrain,
completely
devient propriétaire de ce terrain, est-ce qu'on peut vraiment
independent
s'attendre
from
à ce que
this
on
property.
peut choisir n'importe quelle autre option dans
So
la
does it
gestion
mean
que
that you
parce que ce
can
terrain-là
choose any
ne
of the
devienne
three
pas un
options?
dépotoir?
Is it possible that this site will not become a landfill and the city of Ottawa will use a private land? Is it possible that the city of Ottawa will not use that site as a landfill? So let's say if the city of Ottawa buy the land and then send the garbage into a private owner, what will happen? Answer? Right now, when we're looking at this project, let's say a long-term assessment for the next 30 to 40 years, we're really looking long-term. What will we need to take into account all of the demand? So this is a real long-term decision. What we're saying is that we have options. We will continue to assess these options. If we become owner of this landfill, will there be a consequence on these options? I would say yes, but it doesn't mean that we will not use this site as a landfill. So in 2027, we will just take this property if we become owners within our decision cycle. But we're planning now for the next 100 years. So if we have a site that will allow us to increase our capacity, it's still a finite capacity. At one point, we'll come back with some information and be able to table some recommendation. So that's the reason why one decision will not interfere with the second decision. So if we become owner of this landfill, it doesn't mean that we don't have any more issues and we will have to stop the assessment. That's not the case. Let's say that we're looking at the incinerator. We will need a landfill in any case. So there's always a parallel with these options and the landfill. If I may, sometimes it's very difficult to understand the decision because we're making a decision for the next 100 years. It's not a short-term one. It's not for the next 20 or 10 years. If the Ottawa City Council decide to avoid this, let's say, this issue, if we have to tackle this issue every 15 years, this is one way to go. But we can think about long-term. So we are assessing 3 options right now on top of the landfill acquisition decision. This decision takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to implement that, if I may say. It's not easy. If we have enough capacity in our actual landfill, it's not a final decision for the future, for the next 100 years. It's only a short-term decision. And meanwhile, we have to proceed with assessment because we need other solutions. Radio-Canada, please go ahead. Hello. So did you receive all the authorization for this landfill, or you have to go back to the province?
On peut faire un suivi, c'est possible?
Oui. We can do a follow-up on that? We'll follow up with you. Then we can provide you with more details. Another question? I would like to follow up on my colleague's question. It's not because if you may become the owner of this landfill, it doesn't mean that you will put aside the assessment of the 3 options. So 2 independent decisions. So you're not bidding on a site just to let it go. Absolutely not. If we're becoming the owner of the landfill, we will use it. What I was trying to say, if we become the owner of the landfill, it doesn't mean that this is the final solution of all of the issues that we have in the city of Ottawa. It will provide you with increased capacity, but we still have to assess what will be our needs on the long term. How will we manage garbage collection for many decades? So the question is really not if it will become or not a landfill. It's who will become the owner. So other municipalities can bid on that landfill? Answer? The site is authorized to become a landfill. It will always stay like this. Now, who is bidding in that process? We do not have information about that. Like I said, the seller is in charge of the whole process, the bidding process. Everything is under wrap. There's a non-disclosure agreement, so we do not know who are the other parties. So legally, other municipalities could actually bid on that landfill, or only private companies? Answer? I don't think there are any restrictions. Thank you so much.
Today's media availability. Ceci conclut le point de presse d'aujourd'hui. Thank you. Merci.
Oh. What's that? Well, if you have more questions, go ahead.
Si vous avez d'autres questions.
I just might not be able to answer
No,
them all.
it's just you answered it in French. You said that could you repeat what you said to Fred the first time about whether there will be a vote about the decision to purchase this? You said it in French, but you didn't say it in English.
What I said in French, I think.
Voici ce que j'ai dit en français, si je ne me trompe. Alors, il faudrait peut-être avoir une confirmation. Voici ce que j'ai dit en français. Il s'agit d'une décision du Conseil de la Ville d'Ottawa, à savoir
that we had an in-camera meeting today. I can't tell you what happened in the in-camera meeting.
But will there be a decision that will be public in the future?
Again, I can't talk about that. So we're it's not that I don't want to share this information, but we are governed by a non-disclosure agreement. At the conclusion of the process, all of the details will be disclosed at that time.
It's just a process.
Yeah, we're just
I know, but part of you have to understand, unfortunately, part of what the non-disclosure agreement covers is the process. So what we're allowed to say about the process is affected by the non-disclosure agreement. That's the part that makes it difficult.
Question about staff powers. Does staff have the power to finalize a deal for this without further council authorization? It's just a question about whether staff have that.
Again, and I realize how frustrating this is. I've been in your situation. I get it. But I got to do my job and I got to stick to a non-disclosure agreement. If we didn't sign the non-disclosure agreement, we couldn't be part of the process. And again, I want to underscore, it's not a question of whether these details will be shared, but when the details will be shared. We have to wait till the end of the process to share the details. But the point I want to make is, and when I was responding to Fred's question, is that it is a council decision whether to proceed with a transaction. So it is council that decides whether to proceed with a transaction.
Thanks, everyone. We can take any follow-up questions.
We can't tell the public what's happening here at all right now because the basic 5 Ws aren't covered. So you can make a decision and direct staff in camera to make a decision, to make a purchase. I think I heard you say throughout this.
The mayor's been pretty clear, so we will take any further follow-up questions afterwards. Thanks so much, everyone.